We're officially halfway through the year, so I think it's about time we take a look at some of the albums that have been released this year. So without further ado, let's take a look at 22 albums released in 2022. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell me below what is your favourite album in 2022. We're starting off now with James Bay and Leap. And all I can say is, this was just a really boring album. While Leap has some decent songs and okay production, I don't see any leap or progression from James Bay. Oh My Messy Mind was a great EP with his acoustic rock sound that he's known for, but it had a lot more substance and life than this album. Electric Light has likely scared him away from exploring further music because of the underwhelming reception. However, you've got to at least give him some respect for trying to evolve, and that album had some great songs like Pink Lemonade. This album was a snooze fest besides a few songs. Now on to another disappointing album, 12 Carat Toothache by Post Malone. Hollywood's Bleeding was a brilliant album and has his best songs to date. 12 Carat Toothache is an appropriate title because this was painful and annoying. The bad songs weren't bad, but just really boring, and the good songs were decent at best. I didn't particularly care that I was listening to this album, which isn't a feeling you should have. Quite a letdown from his last record. If you want to check a song out from this album, Love Hate Letters to Alcohol is probably the best one. On to the next one now, Love Sucks, Avril Lavigne. I do really wish this was better. Bite Me was such a great introduction to the album. Plus the album has some really good songs like Avalanche and Kiss Me Like the World's Ending. Love Sucks is definitely a step up from Head Above Water, but overall, it was a letdown. Moving on now to Come Home The Kids Miss You by Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow is the highlight of this album. His charm, personality, and charisma gives this album some merit. However, it doesn't completely save it from being repetitive and boring at times, and honestly, I don't get the title of the album. Some decent tracks on this album though. First Class is a good one, as is Poison. Lizzo's new album, Special, has a great blend of pop and R&B. There is never really a dull moment or a moment where the album actually slows down. It's consistently upbeat. Special is an empowering, uplifting, self-loving album telling us that we're great and also that she's great, which is that confidence that Lizzo is known and loved for. While the album was a fun listen with great songs like About Damn Time and the title track, I did find the second half of the album really boring. There was no new substance. It's just the same songs over again but with a different beat, and that just made the rest of the album quite weak. Overall, you get a good amount of Lizzo's charisma, confidence, and charm. However, you don't get much else. Tate McRae, I believe, has one of the nicest voices in pop music. I really like her tone. She's All I Wanna Be is such an infectious pop song. The album was actually an interesting listen. I do like the flow on this album. However, there wasn't a lot of variety or imagination to make this that special. I enjoyed Don't Come Back and Hate Myself, but otherwise, it was just an okay album. Harry Styles definitely had the most anticipated album of this year. His career has flourished as a solo act. Fine Line was an incredible album and his debut was pretty great too. Harry's House has a 80s pop funk sound. I definitely understand the Rod Stewart and Mick Jagger loose comparisons being made. Harry's charm and charisma helps on songs like Late Night Talk and Shine. However, besides that, I feel more like a stranger in Harry's house than a visitor or a guest. That's the best way I can describe my thoughts about this album. Moving on to another fellow Brit, George Ezra. Gold Rush Kid is a nice album. It seems to have the same sound and feel as his debut album Wanted on Voyage, albeit a more mature version. The album starts really upbeat with Anyone For You, which is an album highlight, and as it continues on, it starts to slow down a bit. While the album has some emotional songs and brilliant vocal performances, which make for great moments, compared to Staying at Tamara's, it doesn't hold up. By no means is this a bad album. Gold Rush Kid has some great songs, and the more I've listened to it, the more I've really enjoyed it. But if you really enjoyed his previous albums, then I would lower your expectations a bit with this one. Now on to the most confusing yet compelling albums, MOTOMAMI by Rosalia. I could not understand a single word of this album. However, it was probably one of the most thrilling things I've heard this year. MOTOMAMI is a weird album, but in a good way. Rosalia is wickedly talented, continuously pushing herself to create the most interesting music she can. And sometimes it pays off and other times it doesn't. This album keeps you on your toes and you just can't tell where the sound will go and what will come next. It's probably one of the most interesting albums of this year. La Fama and Chicken Teriyaki are the best songs on this album. CHARLI XCX is the pop star that we need yet is overlooked. She's in the same league as Ryan Tedder and Charlie Puth, one of the best songwriters and creative visionaries in pop music. Crash is a crash course on CHARLI's career and everything she can do. And just like a car crash, the album is messy and chaotic. The album has some strong songs and others that don't interest me as much. Overall, I would definitely recommend this album to anyone who loves pop music because it has something for everyone. Familia by Camila Cabello feels very personal. Camila doesn't hold back on songs talking about her career, her love, insecurities, and her own heartbreak. Camila Cabello is at her best when she produces Latin music. With so much flair and passion, it brings out the best in her. That's the reason why Havana and My Oh My are some of the biggest hits of her career. The only flaw with this album, I think, is the content. However, for an album that was said to be about family, this feels very Shawn Mendes orientated, which isn't a bad thing because there are some good songs about him on here, but I expected something a lot more personal to her heritage and to her actual life than just her romantic life that's in the public eye. But the album does delve into her Latin roots, which makes it her strongest one yet. Up next we have ALFIE TEMPLEMAN with Mellow Moon. Now I don't have much to say about this album besides that it's a really good indie pop record and ALFIE has only been improving with his music. The only reason I am bringing it up is because I want this album to get some notoriety because it is very fun and very good. I'm not a fan of UK rap, while artists like Dave, Burna Boy and Stormzy have been receiving acclaim for their music. I honestly can't get into it myself. However, with ARRDEE, I can't seem to stop playing his music. Flowers is one of my favorite songs of the year. War is another great one, despite the fact it features an artist I can't stand. However, H has been getting better. I have been liking a lot more of his music. Overall, Peer Pressure is charismatic and fun to listen to, and that's all down to ARRDEE's performance, and I would definitely recommend it. We're getting to some country music now with Carrie Underwood's Denim and Rhinestones. Although messy at times, Denim and Rhinestones has the star power to become quite the gem. The album is a bit all over the place with the track listing, however, the record has a song for every mood. Carrie Underwood's vocals are amazing as always, especially on Poor Everybody Else. I like the songwriting on songs like She Don't Know and Ghost Stories. I didn't feel like the album got off to the greatest of starts, however, it got very interesting towards the middle and it was an enjoyable listen in the end. I can't deny that Unlimited Love was a lot of fun. Opening with one of the best songs of the year, Black Summer, it goes on to explore a wide variety of what rock has to offer and it was highly enjoyable, especially the funky One-Way Traffic. Are there too many songs on this album? Personally, yes, but is this album still good? Hell yes. Understandably, with the band's wide catalogue, older fans will compare this to their more iconic albums they've grown up with and that they hold dear to their heart, and not everyone will enjoy this album as much. However, this album is its own entity and it's a good album. Sabrina Carpenter has really evolved and matured as an artist since her last two albums. Emails I Can't Send is a very well packaged album full of songs that feel very close to the singer and discuss flirty desires, nostalgic thoughts, and also suppressed feelings that she can't let out. The album has a lot of fun songs including the disco-influenced Read Your Mind and pop gems such as Bet You Wanna and Fast Times. I feel like this may be the first time we are seeing Sabrina Carpenter the person as opposed to Sabrina Carpenter just your average pop star. Not to say her past work didn't have any personality or identity, but this album is refreshingly honest, especially with songs like the title track and Because I Liked a Boy, where she talks candidly about infidelity, slut shaming and harassment. However, However, I do feel while this is her strongest album to date in terms of delivery and songwriting, I feel there's a bit of restraints, like it could have been bigger than it is. Songs like How Many Things and Decode aren't the most captivating songs and feel more like fillers. Vocally, she sounds lovely as always, adapting a softer tone at times, and it's beautiful, but other times, such as How Many Things, it makes the track underwhelming. Overall, while this is her most authentic and best work to date, it isn't my favorite just yet, but hopefully this will get her a lot more attention and recognition. Emails I Can't Send, Vicious, Read Your Mind, and Fast Times are the best songs on this album. Rex Orange County is an artist I've always been told to listen to, yet I just never did, until I saw the song Keep It Up on Spotify's new music playlist. Then I decided to give him a chance and he really impressed me. This album was such a calming and easy listen. There's something about his delivery that relaxes me, even on the songs where he talks about anxiety and everything. And these songs were so good, I can't complain, and I relate to a lot of these. Keep It Up, Amazing, Open a Window are just great songs. I would definitely check out this album. After Hours was a fantastic album, released at such a poignant time when the world was shutting down, and this album was our escapism into another world, albeit it was more chaotic, but still a lot better than what was going on outside. As an artist, it put The Weeknd into a completely different frame than how I had viewed him before. Dawn FM is a compelling experience. Sonically, the album is very strong. In the beginning, I was transported to a setting where I was headed to the club in a taxi listening to Dawn FM. And from there, I was experiencing the night, and towards the end, I feel like I'd been on a roller coaster of emotions and events that had me contemplating my existence, and I can envision myself being drunk and tipsy on some sort of substance in a taxi listening to Jim Carrey. This is an album I feel like has to be listened to in its entirety to make sense. On shuffle, or if you pick out individual songs, I don't feel like these are Abel's strongest songs in his catalogue. Sonically, it's very artistic and interesting, however lyrically, the album lacks. I am more drawn into the music than I am him, which is what separates this album to After Hours, which succeeds on the lyrical front. You can feel his pain and sorrow and anger in each song, and while there are some standout tracks on here like Take My Breath and Less Than Zero, everything else doesn't pique my interest as much to return to them. This is still an interesting sequel to After Hours. It's definitely worth a listen, and although I'm not overwhelmingly in love with this album, I can't see anyone else making a more distinct and interesting album as this. It's still a pretty good one. The reason why Paolo Nutini succeeds with Last Night and The Bittersweet is because of his lyrics, emotion, and ability to captivate our attention. This record is pretty great. It has a modern soft rock sound on songs like Through the Echoes, and it has songs like Petrified in Love, which sounds like they could have been in a 90s or 2000s rom-com. It has that nostalgic pop rock sound. The album flows quite nicely and has a really interesting atmospheric sound. The album's runtime does drag on a bit, but despite that, every track has its own fresh and individual sound, so the album doesn't become boring at any point. So it successfully avoids the trap of entering the "is it over yet" category. And this album is so good, it made me want to revisit all of his previous albums, and yeah, I'm a huge fan now. I've always really liked Brett Eldredge. His charm and cheekiness in songs like Something I'm Good At and Lose My Mind is very lovable. However, I never liked him enough to check out his albums. I liked a lot of the songs he released before the album, and I decided to give it a go. Yeah, this is a brilliant album. Much like Carrie Underwood's album, there isn't a clear goal or meaning behind the album, but it's just a great collection of country songs. Can't Keep Up has a very jazzy country vibe, making it a great album opener. And throughout the album, we have different styles that keep it sounding fresh and captivating. Get Out My House, Want That Back, Where Do I Sign are the best songs on this album. It's just brilliant. Alright, our runner-up at the moment is Alec Benjamin on Commentary. I'm a massive fan of Alec Benjamin. His simplistic production and in-depth lyrics really speak to me. On Commentary is his third project, and although I don't think it's as good as his debut mixtape Narrated For You, it is on par and pretty great on a level with these two windows. It has his classic electro-acoustic sound Alec is known for, but it does have some slightly more evolved production. There have been criticism that his album has remained in the same sound, and although I get where they're coming from and I do agree on some level, I don't think it's a bad thing because it's still a pretty good sound, but I do agree I think he should evolve a bit more. He's done great on this album, but I know he can go bigger and bigger. Rounding up the list and what I consider to be the best album of the year so far is Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Coming from a person who doesn't gravitate towards rap music, this album was an incredible experience. So much drama, honesty, toxicity, vulnerability, and passion. This album encapsulates what it means to be a creative and impactful artist. There is a reason why people hold Kendrick Lamar to such a high standards, and this album is just amazing. We Cry Together and Auntie Diaries are just so brutally honest, and he's not afraid to go there and tug at people's heartstrings and minds, and it's such a divisive album, but it's so good. I can't recommend this enough, and that is the perfect way to end this list. Why, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.